Hello everyone, it's Matt here from Prepared UK 101, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about power banks or backup batteries that we use to recharge our tablets and mobile phones when we are not able to do so via a normal 3-pin 240 volt electric socket. They come now in all shapes and sizes. These represent some of the smaller ones that you can get, and this particular one is made by Anchor. The thing that disappoints me a little bit about this one is I would expect to be able to screw the top off and replace the battery inside. Power banks of this type all rely on the 18650 battery as their internal power source. The casing of this one is really well made, perhaps almost aircraft grade aluminium. It's got a really nice finish on it. It's a really quality piece of kit. I don't see this wearing out, but the battery inside it will only have a limited number of cycles, and once it's been fully charged and fully discharged a number of times, it will have outlived its usefulness and it will have to be thrown away and replaced. If you could just replace the battery, that would be so much better. Some of the positive features about this power bank are it has a very small button to switch it on, lights up green when it's fully charged, drops to amber when it's partially charged. It has an IQ charging circuit, which means that it will comfortably work out what is the correct power discharge to input into your device and charge it as quickly and as safely as possible. This one is 3350 mAh, so it's going to give you 1+ smartphone charges. One of the things I tend to do with my power banks is make sure that I always carry a charger cable in there with it so that you're all ready to go. This one I have brought to show you, and it's one that we got for my girlfriend to use. It says on the side its capacity is 3000 mAh. It has a similar charging and discharging port as the Anchor one. It's slightly longer, and that's because it has a built-in torch. The torch itself is reasonably bright, has full power mode, half power mode, and blinking and off. And when we bought it, we thought this was going to be a really trick piece of kit. Unfortunately, there are a few things that let it down. The bulb gets really hot really quickly and almost makes it too hot to touch, which my girlfriend doesn't think is particularly safe or particularly convenient. When charging her Samsung S6 smartphone, the battery itself becomes so hot that she worries keeping it in her handbag, somewhere like that, that if it was smothered, that potentially it could cause some damage to either the internal circuitry in the battery or to her phone. This one I picked up from the high street, and again it is reliant on an 18650 battery as its internal power source. One of the disadvantages of this one is this button here, which switches it on and switches it off. If knocked, it switches itself on, which isn't a very useful feature. What you would expect is that to have quite a small enclosed and encased button means that you decide when it gets switched on, not an item that's next to it. If you just want something that's going to, in essence, get you home, let's take a typical scenario. You are commuting home, you are reading your Kindle, playing on your smartphone and you get a low battery alert, plugging one of these into your phone will give you one charge, get you home, no problem. Try and choose one that has quite a recessed power button, has quite a high capacity mAh, and what I will do is I will post all of the current prices for these items from Amazon in the film so that you can see how much they would cost today. But I believe this one costs about £11. This one is slightly cheaper, I think, retails at about £10, which you would think for the added feature of having the built-in torch, which was good, but there is the heating problem. And this one I picked up from a stationery shop on my high street, and I think it cost me £7. But for the button, it would have been a good buy. And these are what you would call probably the individual charge power banks. What I've been starting to do is I've been starting to look for alternatives for the single charge that you could use if you were hiking, or if you were camping, or you were going to be in a remote location for some time and you were looking for versatility as well as practicability. And the first thing I found was this. It's a little charger case for an 18650 battery. The 18650 battery fits in like that, and then using a charger cable you can recharge your 18650 battery either from a mains wall socket, from a larger power bank. Now, for example, I use 18650 batteries in my head torches and a couple of other things that I've got. So having a power bank where I can recharge my 18650s is very valuable. Also recharge from a solar panel. So you've got three options for recharging your batteries. But one thing it does have, or one thing it doesn't have in comparison to the standard one charge power bank, is there's no output. So where it has the versatility of having one case where you can charge many batteries, unfortunately it doesn't have an output on it. It is recharging only. And if you're going to have it in your rucksack, perhaps connected to a solar panel, then I found that the battery fell out too easily. A small time ago, I found this, which takes the 18650 battery, has a good to go green indicator light on it, and also has the advantage of having USB out as well as mini USB in, so that you can charge and discharge from this case. So that you could use this to recharge your mobile phone, and then you could recharge this from the wall, from another power bank, from solar, but then you have the added advantage of being able to take the battery out once it's full or empty and replace it with another battery. I do like this, but I do feel it's a little bit flimsy, and again it's going to need an elastic band to keep the battery in place to make sure it doesn't drop out when moving in your rucksack or somewhere like that. This seems to be the answer to both of those problems. It's small, it's tough, and it has a neat little indicator light on it. There are 3 green LEDs here which come on to tell you that it is fully charged. It comes with the elastic band, and it's a very good quality elastic band to hold it in place while the battery is in situ, and it has the added advantage of having mini USB to charge, regular USB to discharge, which means that your standard charger cable can be used to discharge, to charge your phone or your tablet, or you can use the same cable, if you can get it the right way up, you can use the same cable to charge it from the wall, solar, or from a larger power bank. This is, I think, a really useful device for charging and discharging 18650 batteries when travelling or operating in remote locations for any length of time. A nice piece of kit. I will post with this the details of exactly where I got it from, how much it cost, and who make it in the film. Another more recent use for power banks that really I started to do when I started to replace them, because they don't last forever, and I thought after a year or 18 months of use that this power bank was going to be towards the end of its life. So I put it into semi-retirement into my first aid kit with a charge and discharge cable for mini USB, but with an iPhone adapter plug so that it would charge an iPhone or a regular electronic device, in particular so that I could use it in an emergency to charge my phone so that I can speak to the emergency services for an extended period of time. That would be really useful if you were in a remote location and you had to give them specific details of where you were, or if you have been using your phone extensively during the day to take photographs, make videos, etc., etc., and then an emergency happens, you are then reliant on the charge that you've got in your mobile phone being sufficient to see the emergency through. Whereas this gives you the options of approximately 2 smartphone charges, and I think this one currently retails for £11 or £12.99, which, when you consider that this Anker battery is 3,350 mAh and costs, I think, £10.95. This one is 5,200 mAh and costs, I think, £1 or £2 more. That this is a really good choice. If I was made of money, or maybe at some time in the future, I will replace the torch in my first aid kit for a torch which has a USB charging port on it, so that I could get one full charge out of from my mobile phone and one full charge from my torch from this single power bank. Well worthwhile thinking, if you carry a first aid kit, to keep a power bank in your first aid kit to make sure that you can cope effectively with the emergency. Now, they were some first generation power banks that were approximately 12 months, 18 months old. They have been replaced and they have been superseded. Let's go for a much larger one this time. These 2 power banks, this one I've had for quite some time. I've used it not extensively, but I have used it. It gives me, I think, 20,000 mAh. So you'd be looking at approximately 8 to 10 smartphone charges from this. Has the added advantage of having 3 USB ports, each with an IQ charging circuit. So you're going to get the best out of the batteries inside it, and you are also going to make sure that you're giving the right supply of power to the device that you want to charge. Has small on switch, and as well has an LCD display telling you what percentage of charge is available in it, and it's also switchable between 9 and 12 volts for charging. It is slightly disadvantaged in that its weight is 495 grams. It's also only chargeable from 240 volt AC wall charger. A useful bit of kit, but doesn't necessarily have the versatility of, for example, this new Anker charger, which I think costs about £30. Again, as you can see, is probably, although I've never cut one open and looked inside, is probably 18650 reliant for its internal power source. Is 20,000 mAh, so it has the same capacity as this one, but has the advantage of only being half of the width and just over half of the height. One thing it's got going for it over the other one is this one only weighs 360 grams. So it is considerably lighter, as well as being considerably smaller, and is my current multi-use, multi-charge power bank. Can charge 2 devices at once and will accept any input that you can get into it from micro USB. It has useful 4-light indicator for charge and discharge. When it's charging, it tells you the level, and the top one flashes to tell you that it is actively charging. A nice battery. I think these are currently retailing for about £30. And in the bag, I also keep a multitude of cables, mini USB, and the old and new Apple chargers. One thing you want to look for, or one thing you want to add as an addition to your power bank, is a braided cable. A cable that's got a braiding on the outside to protect it in a similar way to the cable on your iron, so that it's not susceptible to being damaged from being knocked or banged during travel, or being creased or folded during storage. They do cost a couple of quid, but they are definitely worthwhile. This battery here will see most of my use. I wasn't disappointed with this when I bought it. I certainly thought it had a place, but it has proved to be just a little bit too big and a little bit too heavy. What I have been using quite regularly is, this was my go-to power bank for a long time. It's another one from Anker, 10,000 mAh, 4 nice bright clear LED indicators for how much charge it has on board. It's a single input and a double output, and one of the things that I use it for is sometimes when we stay in accommodation and you either have the ceiling light or quite a big wall light, especially if you're sharing a room, It can be a little awkward, just having a little bit of light. Then this enables me to have a little bit of personal light. I use this quite a lot as well when I'm camping. And in, for example, a situation, if you had a power cut, either planned or unplanned, and you just thought, well, that's it, just going to go to bed, read a book, a system like this is ideal. They don't just charge mobile phones, they are also capable of powering anything that is powered by USB. Switches itself off after I think 30 seconds of not being plugged into anything. And weight, size, proportions, this was a good 10,000 mAh power bank. Very, very reliable. And a nice design and quite sleek. However, that is an older generation of power bank. This is Anker's newest power bank, and believe it or not, it has the same electrical capacity as the old one, whilst being just over half of the size. Again, probably is reliant on 18650 battery technology for its internal power cells. Has the same side light touch semi-recessed button as the much larger battery I showed you earlier. Still has the 4 LED indicators, and it has one IQ port out and one micro USB input. This is $180 grams. The power bank it superseded 246 grams. That's a decent difference in weight. As you can see, over the generations, from generation 1 to generation 2, the power banks have got considerably smaller. The only thing that hasn't changed is obviously the size of the individual one charge units. This is these are both 20,000 mAh, and these are both 10,000 mAh. This is quite an expensive battery on its own, but at 3,400 mAh is a really good quality battery, giving slightly more power than the Anker unit. And let's just have a look now. Let it set itself to 0. So the Nightcore battery and the input-output charger unit weighs 81 grams, and the Anker unit weighs 82, 83 grams. So they weigh, or they're almost identical. However, for outdoor use, I think that's more versatile. I think to keep in your handbag, briefcase, rucksack, EDC bag, just to give you that extra bit of juice to get you home. For an urban environment, that would definitely be my go-to. There are some other options that we can think of when we're looking to buy and use a power bank. This, for example, is quite nice. Cost about £26–27. Has a capacity of 2,700 mAh. Takes a 1,000 milliamp input at 5 volts. Your the top comes off, mobile phone slides in, top goes on, and it gives you 1 and a bit charges. The nice thing about this is it discharges this before it discharges the battery in your phone. So once this is done, you could take this off and pop your regular case back on again, and you would still have 100% charge in your phone battery. It has a solar panel on the back, and it's quite an effective solar panel as well. So if you leave it, if you're driving and you leave it upside down on the seat next to you or upside down in the well in the dashboard, it will charge even through the windscreen of your vehicle. If you were outdoors, it will also protect your phone as well as charging your phone, and it gives you a little bit more versatility because it has a standard micro USB input, which means that if you're like me and you have an Apple phone, you are not disadvantaged in terms of recharging through a lack of cables, because it takes the most common form of input. So it'll convert from being Apple reliant to being much more utilitarian for its input. It will protect your phone, it will charge your phone, and potentially it will keep your phone charged as well. Definitely an option worth considering. If you wanted something in between, models like this are available. It will charge itself by solar, and I don't know if you can see or not, but just here there's a green charging indicator light, which means that just from the lighting in this room, it's charging itself now. It's got 4 blue LEDs to show that it has power, each one representing approximately 25% of the charge. Like a lot of these units, it has a little LED torch. It has a USB output as well as micro USB input, so you're not totally reliant on solar power for recharging it. And it has a second USB port on the other side, so you can charge 2 devices at once. It is rubber armoured, so it's quite a resilient unit. A friend of mine uses one of these all the time, and he has it fastened to the outside of his rucksack during the day so it charges up, and during the evening he plugs it into his phone and charges his phone overnight, and he swears by them and says it's absolutely brilliant. I've used this occasionally. I do take it with me quite often, but I have only used it occasionally, and it is 160 grams. So 160 grams giving you 6,000 mAh. So you're looking at 2+ charges to a smartphone from this before it is itself discharged, but it has the ability to recharge itself so long as it gets a good exposure to sunlight. If you are looking for a power bank, I would say the first place to start is with your budget. Don't go spending a huge amount of money on gadgets when what you really want is the input potential for charging your devices. Don't go too cheap, because you may find that the build quality isn't what you'd expect, and there are a couple of little bits about it that let itself down. Go for something robust. Go for something that's going to deliver the amount of power that you want for your device. And you also need to think about as well what you're actually going to use it for and what kind of versatility you're going to demand from it. All of these devices, I think, are really excellent and good quality. They all represent good value for money. And each of these has a very, very valuable place in my kit for a weekend charging, a day's recharge, a week's recharge, recharging in the wilderness, away from where you want something that has the potential to keep going and keep going. And this, I think, is very, very useful for its ability to charge and discharge and to swap in and swap out fresh batteries, so that if you are camping or hiking or travelling and are reliant on having a good supply of 18650s charged up, then this is also a good option as well. So think about how much power you need, how much money you want to spend, how rugged you need it to be, and what level of versatility you're looking for. This has been Matt from Prepared UK 101, and I hope this has been an interesting and valuable little video helping you to select the correct power bank for you. As always, if you liked the video, please like, share and subscribe. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching my video. Goodbye.